He may be the strongest, but that doesn't mean he can't be wrong. What's up, guys? Pencil here, and here we are to talk about whether or not any, and I mean any, of Gojo's students could actually surpass him, or, in the case of some translations, be on par with him by any point of their lives within JJK. Can any of the students of Gojo Satoru actually reach the level of Gojo Satoru? That's a question. That's a question. Because here's the thing, right? Gojo says it is possible. And to be fair, considering how young some of the students are and some of the abilities they have access to, I can see why Gojo may think it's possible that one day these beings could become sorcerers on par with him. But at least going by what the series has offered us and the level of power and ability that Gojo is implied to have, along with his narrative relevance, along with the stakes of the narrative, and simply the general level of power that has been established for the strongest sorcerer, I think he kind of set them up for failure, and I think it's kind of an impossible task, with maybe, and I mean maybe, one exception. But it really depends on the flexibility of the rules of that one exception. And technically, maybe one other could become his equal. But even then, I think that's nigh on impossible. Let's not waste any more time, and let's hop right into it. What's up, guys? Lego Pencil here, and fun fact. I have it on me. I do keep it on me at all times. But let's talk about the students of Jujutsu High. Now, I'm going to quickly glaze over. I mean, technically the Kyoto school are not his students, so I don't have to cover them, but like at the same time, I think you know that Miwa's already the strongest in the verse, so she doesn't need to surpass Gojo. She's beyond Gojo entirely. And also, I think you know that Mai is gone. She's a sword now, kind of. I'm not sure how that works. Is Maki's Soul Liberation Blade actually Mai? Because she does communicate with Mai in Sakurajima Colony, but like she literally says, I let that old man use me. So I guess Mai technically is still around, but I don't see Mai in sword form ever getting more gains. I don't see Kokichi Muda ever getting more gains, because Kokichi Muda's Kokichi... Can I make that joke? I'm not sure if I can make that joke. He's 6 feet under, all right? Bro's not surpassing anybody. Unfortunately, Toto probably still doesn't even have his hand back. Bro hasn't been mentioned in over 100 chapters. Okay, not over 100 chapters, nearly 100 chapters, but still, that's like 4 years. Okay, maybe that's a little bit too much. Maybe like 2.5. But still, regardless, Toto has not been mentioned in a while, and his curse technique and his abilities don't really imply anything that he could go any further than he is right now. Or no, he could go further, but not to the level of Satoru Gojo. Momo, you look me dead in my eyes and tell me you believe that Momo could ever even reach grade 1. Is she grade 1? Is she? I actually don't know that. Is she grade? What grade is she? I don't actually know. Semi-grade 2. What kind of curse tool do you think she's going to get access to with tool manipulation that's going to allow her to go crazy? Because I can tell you, none of the above. And then Noritoshi Kamo. I don't think Noritoshi Kamo is ever going to surpass Choso. Let me be honest with you. I don't think he's ever going to surpass Choso, because it's literally not in his biology. So he's definitely not reaching Gojo tier. And Arata Nita, his curse technique doesn't even have anything to do with violence. Like, it legit doesn't. It's a technique that actually stops previous examples of violence from having further negative effects. So, like, his technique isn't even built. So, yeah, the Kyoto school's kind of not even in this competition, if it was ever a competition to begin with. The Tokyo school was always going to be stronger. But even within the Tokyo school itself, it's a tad unfortunate. So let's start at the bottom. Actually, let's start beneath the bottom. Let's start so abysmally low that I'm shocked that I even have to mention this thing. And yes, it is a thing. It's not a character. It is a waste of space. It is an absolute disgusting travesty that this thing keeps getting drawn over 100 chapters after Nanami has been removed from the narrative. After nearly 100 chapters, if not 100 chapters, since Nobara has been removed from the narrative. After so many fantastic top-tier characters have been eliminated and executed. This thing, this waste of space, this waste of ink, time, thought, process, everything. This disgusting excuse for a creature still roams. And let me tell you, heaven forbid I were to ever run across that creature. Because if I were to ever encounter this thing, I am but a mortal man. I possess no powers of the extreme or the unearthly. But trust me when I say, I would awaken to powers never seen before within Jujutsu Kaisen, our world, or anywhere in fiction, to annihilate this absolute waste of space that still takes up panel time to this day. Yeah, Panda's not surpassing Gojo anytime soon. Like, I mean, he's Panda. Like, what do you really want him to do? Notably, Panda's kind of, like, restricted by his biology. Like, hold on, let me put this back. But, like, being completely serious with y'all, I don't really see any way for Panda to reach Gojo level. Maybe, hypothetically, if he can, like, get new cores. But notably, you gotta remember, in the chapter right after Kashimo failed the mission, like, the mission was to eliminate Panda, and Kashimo failed it. I'm sorry, Kashimo, you're, like, 0 for 2 right now, but I know he slayed, like, literally... Yeah, 200 points? 5 points a person? He slayed like 40 sorcerers. But still, the two most important missions you had, Kashimo, beat Hakari, beat Panda. You're 0-2 right now, bro. I'm sorry. And you're currently about to go 0-3 if you try to go fight Sukuna. But for Panda, we literally see after Kashimo pieces him up, his sister and brother cores are gone. They're annihilated. And all that's left is the Panda core. And we've seen that this core, at least for right now, is the weakest. And notably, let me double check, does Panda even have any unique abilities all to his own? I mean, he's strong, he's durable, and he's a decent hand-to-hand fighter. But yeah, he doesn't necessarily have any special abilities in his regular state. So, like, I'm not even sure if he can do anything other than punch real good. And even then, he can't even do that because he's like this big now. Like, bros, I'm sorry, Fire Emblem Engage, I didn't mean to do that to you, but he's probably like as big as this ruler. Bro's probably 30 centimeters tall right now. Of course he's not gonna be able to surpass Gojo. And notably, even if Kashimo hadn't nearly done us all a favor and gotten Panda up out of here and get his siblings up out of here, I don't think he would have had potential to surpass Gojo anyway, considering the sister of Panda, seemingly the strongest and most dangerous out of all his cores, was such a joke that Kashimo, someone who was not using his curse technique, managed to absolutely one-tap it and foderize it. I don't believe that thing ever had the potential to actually reach Gojo level. I don't think that thing had the potential to reach Nanami level. Being completely honest with you, I think it was that fodder. But then again, I think Panda's disgustingly fodder. I don't think Panda's worthy of grade 4. You know what Panda is? He's a grade 7. But Pencil, things only go to grade 4. I don't care. He's grade 1 billion. And unfortunately, actually, no. Yes, because 1 billion's further down the scale. So yeah, Panda's fodder. I don't think that, like, even the Panda fans out there, because I know a lot of people are like, well, Pencil, you hate Panda way too much. And you'd be shocked when I say I don't hate him enough. But with that being the case, I don't think Panda, even the most diehard Panda fans, had any sort of conception that he was going to reach Gojo level. So there goes one of Gojo's students. But I can't necessarily knock Panda for that. That's literally just due to his biology, where he comes from, all the stuff like that. I don't think he could literally surpass himself. It's interesting that he's able to grow as much as he did within the series. Let's move on to the next character, who I actually do like a lot, but they don't actually get much screen time, and whatever screen time they do get is usually them proving why they could never surpass Gojo. Toge Inumaki. The fact that his main ability can be negated by simply recognizing the seals and essentially doing this, but instead you don't actually have to do this, you just reinforce your ears with cursed energy, is trash. Try and do this against Hollow Purple, you're going to get erased from existence. Try to do this against a punch from Yuji, you're going to get your jaw broken. Try to do this against Maharaga, you're going to have your head removed. Try to do this against Resonance, you're going to get Resonance out of existence. Try to do this against Soulsplit Katana, you're going to lose your head, your hands, and probably your fingers too. She'll probably get specific. Try to do this against the Gambler. I mean, he's just going to punch you in the mouth. Like, legitimately, curse speech, if you know it's coming, is not the best. But here's the thing, even with the idea, let's say everyone just forgets what curse speech is, Toge has shown, like, general lack of ability to reach beyond his level of, I believe he's a grade 1 by the time of the series, semi-grade 1 by the time of the modern series. So I don't think bro could reach much higher. Even if you were to give the man RCT, he doesn't have the cursed energy storage. Like, notably, if he had much larger reserves of cursed energy that he could pour into cursed speech, then maybe he could go higher. But once again, I don't think he'd ever be able to reach Gojo level. Once again, Gojo level is not just, oh, he's super duper crazy powerful with his techniques, but like Gojo himself is just a physical monster. Even without using things like blue to amp his speed and attack potency, he's able to go relative with 20 finger Sukuna. 19 finger plus the mummy. All right, whatever. But still, that is a level of just raw physical power that is nigh on unprecedented. The speed that base Gojo has to go relative with that Sukuna when it's able to flat out perception blitz other special grade tier fighters like Ryu when they're 5 fingers weaker is absolutely insane. Toge would have a massive gap to cross in terms of just reinforcing himself physically with cursed energy. But not only does he seem to not have the potential to do that, not only does his technique have very easy counters that are well known within the series, and not only does he not have the cursed energy supply to back up such a powerful ability, but also he's kind of missing an arm. I'm not sure how cursed energy production works, but I feel like he's not going to be able to produce as much cursed energy with that arm missing. So thusly, I think whatever path he had to Gojohood is Gojo gone. Like it's all Gojo over for Toge. If it was ever there in the first place. Say Toge still had his arm. Say he still had that nice, juicy, fat appendage that I bet we wish we all had. And hopefully we all do. And if you don't, that's fine. But still, with Toge, he just never had the potential. He would literally have to be born better. I feel like a lot of Toge's potential, at best, he'd be a high grade one. I don't see him ever reaching special grade tiers, considering how limited his cursed energy supply is and how limited his own ability is. Because notably, someone like Yuta, when they spam cursed speech, they can heal their throat away. But I'm not sure if Inumaki ever even had the amount of cursed energy or the ability to understand and unlock RCT. If he did, I think that's one of the first things he would have unlocked, because it's very necessary for his ability, but he can't. So I don't think Gojo is ever even worried remotely about Inumaki reaching his level. But that's like the bottom tier of well, I guess there's one more character I gotta throw in the bottom tier, but like I don't want to do it to her, but since I don't want, you know what, Panda's in the bottom tier. Panda's below the bottom tier. Here's the bottom tier. There's no one there. Then there's Panda, but we have the next one. Now here's the thing, right? I'm not sure who to talk about next, because this may be a low-key like power ranking for where I think the powers or the abilities and the raw stats of these characters rank, but it's not really. But the next character I do want to talk about is, do I talk about Kirara or do I talk about Nobara first? I mean, 99.9% of the fandom, and by 99.9%, I merely mean like 66. I feel like there's a third of the Nobara copium huffers. We're all together. Don't worry. I got my copium right off screen. I huff it every single day. But Nobara, she has not been in the narrative for 100 chapters. She has a recent mention in the narrative. She's had a couple mentions throughout the narrative. But Nobara, the character herself, I believe, let me double check right now. I think Nobara, the character herself, last made an appearance in the 120s. For perspective, we are on chapter 231. Yeah. And remember, Gege has taken multiple breaks. Multiple breaks. Some of these breaks being like a month long. Was he the one with the 3-month break, or was that Tabata? I think Tabata had a 3-month break. But I think Gege also had like a month-long break, or even longer than that. There have been massive breaks. So it's not just, oh, she hasn't appeared in over 100 chapters, which would in our time be 2 years, with just mandatory breaks included. No, she's likely been out of the narrative for 3 years, because I believe her last in-story appearance, that is chapter 174, that is way too late in the narrative. Let me see. 123? Am I missing? I think I'm missing. Yep, she's fighting Mahito there. Whew, that Mahito cover goes crazy. Chapter 125 is the last flashback we have of her. Then she is literally locked out on the ground at the start. Well, not at the start really, but towards the middle of chapter 126, and she has not appeared in the narrative since, or at least conscious. Like, she does appear in chapter 127 when she gets healed by the first year from Kyoto, but other than that, she has not appeared. So, thusly, I don't blame a majority of the fandom just assuming she's gone. she's cooked, she's done. But I'm going to be huffing my copium till the day I go. Until Gege lays it down on the table, slaps his meat on the table, and says, no, she's gone. I'm just going to keep holding out hope. Especially considering, and I know this is kind of piggybacking on the Nobara video that I'm going to drop soon, but I 100% believe it was mentioned that that last finger is held by Gojo for a reason. We know there's a character who can use an ability that can reflect damage across things that are linked by the soul. But then again, you have Yuji, who's also technically kind of a finger now. So, like, I don't know. But regardless, if we go with the idea that Nobara's packed, she's never reaching Gojo level because she's packed. Can't reach Gojo level when you're literally 6 feet under. Ask Kichimura. Never reaching Gojo level. But with that being the case, even with, let's go with the idea that Nobara is alive. Let's go with the common fan theory that she's going to unlock RCT. Let's go with the idea that she's going to get a massive amp from nearly experiencing the end of all things, and thusly coming back, she kind of has like, whoa, she's loopy-doopy in the Gojo way that happened in the Gojo's past arc. I still don't think she has the potential to reach Gojo level. Notably, this is for a couple reasons. One, even with a massive cursed energy buff, she's not starting from the same point that Gojo was. She, at best, was a low-grade 1. She sees a high-grade 1, admittedly, and Nanami, and is like, Nani Daisuke no Nanami-san is so powerful at the time of Shibuya, her most recent appearance, and ultimately, she just is blown away by that. So at best, she would reach, like, high grade 1 levels of power from an awakening standpoint. Meanwhile, someone like Teen Gojo was already nigh on high grade 1, if not, like, just bordering on special grade. It really depends. Some people say that Gojo is already a special grade, but I don't think so. I think it's, like, not only shown through the one panel of Geto, where it's like he's a high grade 1 sorcerer, and there's no one in the special grade category, and Gojo and Geto are implied to be equals at that point, but it's really, really weird. I understand why some people think Gojo was already special grade as a teenager, but I do think that he isn't. But even if you want to say that, then that's even worse for Nobara, because Teen Gojo, before he got his loopy amp, was already a special grade then, and then he just got higher beyond special grade, so I don't think Nobara is starting from the same point, even if she were to get a crazy, reverse, insane, mega giga boost. I think that's kind of just beyond her pay grade. And another thing that's beyond her pay grade is having a chance of actually reaching Gojo level. Because here's the thing, even if you want to say she's alive, even if she gets all that, her technique simply does not reach the same standards as Gojo, like, at all. Resonance is a really good ability. The Straw Doll technique, technically, not resonance. But such an ability can only get so strong. And I don't think anything that Nobara has shown potential-wise, narrative-wise, character-wise has implied that she could ever either A, develop enough hatred to get her cursed energy levels up so high that the explosions she produces from her nails become massive, and or that resonance would ever work any better than resonance already has worked. Like, maybe if she gets a massive cursed energy amp, she can put more behind the reflected attack, but that's not going to the level. Sorry, it just isn't. And once again, she runs into the same issue that I see with Toge, where, like, the raw power and speed of Gojo is, like, out of this world. And I don't see her reaching it, even with, like, 50 years of training. Like, legitimately, I don't know, Gojo's just different. And unfortunately, the same thing sort of applies for Kirara, but except unlike Nobara, where you could maybe make an argument that Nobara's technique has the potential to reach the level of the deities through, like, just giving her more cursed energy and maybe applying a reversal to it. I'm not exactly sure. Well, I am exactly sure, but I'm not going to say it here. What I think a reversal of her technique could be, Kirara is kind of just, like, very, very defensive in terms of her technique, and that's one of the big things. If you have a defensive technique, you're not reaching Gojo level. I'm sorry. The reason the Limitless is so good is because it is a defensive technique and an offensive technique, and every other kind of variation of technique with super crazy hacks and everything rolled into one. All Kirara has is the star technique. And while it is very, very good for defense, if you're trying to defeat your opponent, unless you want them to go to sleep, keeping them away from you is the hardest way to defeat them. Unless you're going to do, like, some weird stuff and, like, slam them through buildings by using the polarity stuff. But regardless of that, Kirara's technique already locks her off from being Gojo level. And then you just have her raw stats, and I don't know. I don't see her becoming a... How tall is Gojo? I think he's, like, 6'4". I mean, it's massive when you really think about it, but, like, I think bro is 6'4". JGK Wiki, guide me! Bro is 6'3". I can give him an extra inch. I know I can't even say some people, a lot of people wish Gojo would give him more than just one exchange. But regardless, yeah, I just don't see her reaching the physicality. Once again, lack of hatred, lack of just basic ability to reach that powerful, and her technique is already defensive, so I just don't see any way Kirara could reach the levels of Satoru Gojo. And then we move on to a tier above. I'd say you would have Panda in the beneath the trash tier, like bro is literally garbage. And then you have Toge in his own lingering tier, because, you know, I want to try and give Kirara and Nobara more credit, because Gege never will. But regardless, with that being the case, then I put Kirara and Nobara in kind of the same tier. Well, Nobara does have an offensive technique, but I don't believe she has the potential, while Kirara doesn't have an offensive technique, and I don't think that'll ever change, so she's kind of just stuck out of luck. Finally, we're going to move on to a tier even higher, a tier even beyond, to Megumi Fushiguro. And here's the thing, right? Megumi has the potential, or Megumi's body has the potential to be Himothy. It really, really does. But I need to remind you that so far, the strongest of the 10 shadows technique that we've seen so far, raw, slapped on the table, just whip it out and smack it on the table with all the weight and girth behind it. Even the strongest of the 10 shadows technique, the Divine General, Sela Divine, whatever his title is, as long as I'll get out, Maharaga is fully capable of being one-tapped by Gojo. And notably, this is not just a thing that Gojo thinks to himself. Even Sukuna goes out of his way to prepare Maharaga for it. He doesn't just Sukuna doesn't reach into his back pocket and smack Maharaga on the table, because Maharaga is liable to get one tap. And not one tap by something like Hollow Purple, not one tap something like a Domain. Well, obviously he's liable to get one tap by that. But no, Curse Technique Reversal Red, in Gojo's opinion, is enough to one-shot Maharaga. And it seems like Sukuna agrees with him, because he's not whipping Maharaga out until Maharaga is fully adapted. That's embarrassing. And notably, that seems to be the pinnacle. If you believe, like I do, that there's one more 10 shadow that we have yet to see, then maybe there's hope for the 10 shadows technique. But if you go with the commonly held belief that Maharaga is the final 10 shadow, I don't know what to tell you. You better hope that slaying the rest of the Shikigami leads to a super crazy totality for Maharaga, or else even Maharaga himself can never reach Gojo level. And if Maharaga's adaptations only lead to adaptations, you can make an argument that if Gojo and Sukuna fully believe that Big Papa Maharaga can be one-tapped, that means they believe that Maharaga couldn't dodge in time. So thusly, even the peak of the 10 shadows, when summoned by Sukuna, 20-finger Sukuna, should be the strongest variation of Maharaga to ever exist, unless you believe all Maharagas are uniform. Yeah, that's not Gojo level. It just isn't. Now, notably, I'm saying it's not Gojo level, but apparently it was 6 Eyes the Limitless user level, which does feel weird. It does feel very, very weird, but I'm going to make the massive assumption that the 6 Eyes the Limitless user that fought the Zenin clan head all those years ago in that period was most likely a Teen Awakened Gojo level user. They probably didn't have RCT, which is weird, I'll admit. But they probably didn't have RCT. They didn't have access to red. They didn't have access to purple. Because we know Gojo's a weird exception. Bro has things that have existed before, but he takes them to a whole new level. So unfortunately, Megumi, with his ultimate Omega trump card, could not beat Gojo. Even if you were to give Megumi the domain, give him the full extra sauce, complete the domain, give it a sure hit of 1,000,000 Maharagas, Gojo poops domain right back. And here's the thing, I just don't think Megumi is better. Well, it's gonna sound great. I don't think he's better than any of his ancestors. I don't even think it's possible for him to beat Maharaga. Remember, the only characters in the entire series who have actually shown the ability to defeat Maharaga are the King of Curses with either 75% of his power on top of a crazy, insane base. I called... I have no idea what I was about to call Itadori there. But 15-finger Sukuna and Gojo, a.k.a. number 1 and number 2 and number 3 in the verse. Like, you know, like Gojo, 20-finger Sukuna, 15-finger Sukuna. Like, yeah, the strongest characters in the verse. I don't see Megumi ever reaching 15-finger Sukuna level. Not to talk of 20-finger or Gojo. And this is really because, like, if no one else could do it before him, how is he supposed to? Once again, even if he were to jump Maharaga with all the Shikigami, it likely wouldn't work. You gotta remember, it's likely that every other Shikigami that we've seen so far has been accessed by previous users. The only thing that Megumi has specifically said is that, oh, only Mahoraga has never been tamed. But that implies that the Madoka Deer's been tamed, that the Piercing Bull's been tamed. Obviously, we know the rest have been tamed. So even with all of the other Shikigami, either 8 or 9 of them, at the disposal of the Tenchao's user, likely totalityed up to absolute insanity, they still weren't enough to beat Mahoraga. And Mahoraga is nowhere near Gojo level, at least naturally. And even then, I think once Mahoraga pops out, it still won't be Gojo level. It'll just be immune to a lot of Gojo's techniques, or highly resistant to them. So, I don't know. I never see Megumi reaching that potential either. And we've literally seen Megumi have his kind of sort of honored one moment, where he loses his mind and just gives in to the mania. And not only did he never unlock RCT, but also his domain was incomplete. And even the completion of his domain, I don't think it'll put him at Gojo level. Once again, Gojo level is not just the culmination of techniques and abilities, but it is also just the level of raw stats. Megumi has some tall genes in him. How tall was Toji? Let's double check. Bro has to be 6'4". I think, was he taller than Gojo? But then again, that was Teen Gojo. How tall was Toji? Toji Fushiguro. Give me those juicy stats, JJK Wiki. Give me those juicy, not the synopsis. Give me those juicy stats. He is, the wiki doesn't have it, so I have no idea. I have no idea how tall Toji is. But even still, even with those genes in him, I don't think he has the potential. I really don't. I think if he's not at Teen Gojo level now, which I wouldn't say he is, he doesn't even have a completed domain. So I do believe that even a pre-awakened Teen Gojo could probably wash Megumi in Shibuya and in the Culling games. I don't think he's going to be able to reach Gojo level, because I don't think he's any more different than any of his ancestors. If they can't beat Mahoraga, they cannot beat Gojo, or even reach the level of Gojo, not in my opinion. Then we have, I'd say like now, with Liberated Yuji a tier even above Megumi. Heck, maybe be able to put like a tier in between Megumi and this next guy. Yeah, Itadori. Itadori Yuji. On this body I will curse it. Who actually knows that reference? Who actually knows that reference? Because I'll admit, I always forget the reference until I'm going through my playlist and I hear the reference. But like, Itadori Yuji, on this body I will curse it. Let me know if you know that reference. I want to know how many people know that reference. I feel like some people do. But Itadori Yuji, he just had a massive, and I mean a massive buff recently. He went from Yuji the Container to Yuji the Anti-Container, Yuji the Liberator, the Liberated, and we got Liberated Yuji Itadori, who was able to keep up with somewhat and actually tag 15-finger Magona. It's not enough. It's not enough. Especially considering, at this point, once again, simply going off what we know of the character, not theorizing, which, once again, I may be whipping up in the kitchen an Itadori theory for a curse technique video. I may be whipping that up, but at least at the moment, bro doesn't even have a curse technique. I know there's that one little theory of him leaving that slash on Sakuda's finger by pure accident, but even with that being the case, give him Cleave and Dismantle. We've already seen it. We literally seen it in the Gojo and Sukuna fight. That 20-finger Sukuna, a character much times 1,000 stronger than Liberated Yuji, whips out his divine burialist domain, and Gojo leans back in his chair and is like, oh, fantastic. In terms of curse technique, I'm overwhelmingly stronger. And he is! He is. So someone like Yuji, who could never, I mean never, reach 20 fingers of Sukuna levels of energy, unless he literally goes down the same path that Sukuna did and like lives out an entire human lifespan and then becomes something greater. Yuji could never, ever reach that level, because he's not even going to be able to reach Malevolent Shrine levels of power and output with Cleave and Dismantle if he does have that. And currently, he just doesn't have a technique. And you aren't reaching Gojo level without a technique. I hate to say it. It's just not like that. If you have a technique substitute, then maybe. If you have tools that could hypothetically give you something similar to a technique, maybe you could reach Gojo level. Just might be. But currently, as Itadori is now, without a technique, without any sort of raw scaling to anything, even with his insane potential as a superhuman and all the hatred he has in his heart, I'm not sure how much more hatred he can produce. How much more negativity can he produce? Like, literally, what else does he have to lose now? Other than, like, I guess new friends? But even then, Megumi, cooked. Nobara, maybe cooked. He doesn't necessarily have that deep of a connection to Yuta, Kirara, Kinji, Panda, Toge, Maki. He doesn't. He just doesn't have a connection like that to them. And if all that negativity, all of that hate culminated in a couple punches on a casual 15-finger Maguna, I'm not exactly sure what that says for Yuji's further potential. Unless he can get something crazy, cracked, or stupid while we wait for him, I just don't see it. Even with that hypothetical soul swapping technique he has, I don't see that being something that surpasses Gojo. It just isn't. At least in my opinion, I don't think it's something that surpasses Gojo, because once again, you've never even be able to hit Gojo. Ever. Unless that soul swapping technique has a domain, but then Gojo has a domain of his own. So, I don't know. I think Yuji, while he's super duper physically powerful, that lack of a technique, that lack of any hacks, it does my boy dirty. But speaking of doing people dirty, let's talk about the man, the myth, the legend himself. I can't end on a loss, Kinji Hakari. And why he could never surpass Gojo either. Now, you may be wondering, like, whoa, wait. But Gojo explicitly went out of his way to exemplify Hakari and another character we're going to talk about in a little bit on how they could actually be the ones to surpass him. How they have great talent, how they could reach his level one day. And yeah, Gojo did say that, but like, look me dead in the eyes. If Hakari right now has a nigh on surefire way to achieve infinite cursed energy, and he's still not one-tapping people of Kashimo's caliber, what do you want from him? Where do you go higher from this? Bro's already jacked. Bro's already pulling the shirt out like bro's already meaty. He's already jacked and juicy. He can't get more jacked, like another character on this list, or really two other characters I have yet to talk about. He can't get any more jacked than juicy. Maybe he can. Maybe we can get a bit more beef. But if he's not one-tapping right now, if he's barely leaving some scuff marks right now, how do you expect him to reach Gojo level? Especially considering, I know there are people who are betting, raising, rubbing their little fingers together over that 777. And that's cool and all. I think that's fantastic that we have the theory, it relates back to gambling, all that good stuff. But even still, I don't think that 777 is going to suddenly shoot him to Gojo level. I just don't think it will. I think it's beyond, once again, it's beyond his pay grade. Another thing that he lacks in specific that is very important to someone like Gojo, Gojo has hacks. What are Akari's hacks? He can hit you with a door. And he can hit you with a ball. Oh no. The door ball. It's the scariest thing ever. Like, bro, what's this supposed to do? Like, legitimately, he doesn't have any special hacks. At least someone like Nobara can attack your soul, be a natural predator to something like mine. So, at least someone like Megumi has adaptation and, like, electricity and RCT through a deer. Like, at least he has something like that, and shadow travel and stuff like that. Heck, I'm not going to praise Panda. We're never praising Panda. And he doesn't even have it anymore, so Panda's whack. At least Toge has, like, various effects and abilities through his cursed speech. If it lands, at least Kirara has the ability to create an uncrossable space as long as things go well. But, what hacks does Hakari have? Other than a really nice domain that leads into super duper bulky and fast man, but he's not actually that super duper, well, he is very bulky, but he's not actually that fast or that strong. So I'm not sure. I don't think Kinji really has the potential. I know he's only 18. 18 question mark? With an exclamation point? Question mark? It doesn't say his age. Oh no, but I think he is 18. He's a third year. So even with bro being a little 8-izzle, he does have, 10 more years till he reaches his prime? I'm not sure, unless he becomes, like, a true, proper bodybuilder or power lifter. I'm not sure if bro has the potential to even reach Gojo physically. But even then, if he reaches Gojo physically, he's never going to be able to hit Gojo. He's never going to be able to do anything about the neutral limitless. And thusly, I don't see him ever reaching Gojo's level. Once again, I think his technique is just a teeny tiny bit too simple, ultimately. And thusly, while it has great abilities and utility, it's just not good enough to be Gojo level. The technique itself, in a similar vein to Kirara and in a similar vein to something like the 10 Shadows, where they have super duper high peaks, Infinite Curse Energy and Maharaga are really, really good. They are not to the level of Satoru Gojo. But we're going to leave Hakari in his own little tier. For reference, we got Panda where he belongs, beneath the trash can. We got Toge tap dancing above the trash can. We got Kirara and Nobara, Millie rocking on any block above Toge. Then we got Megumi dancing and prancing in his own tier. And we got Yuji Itadori bawling his eyes out over Megumi in the tier above. And then we have Kinji Hakari chilling in a tier, I'd say relative to Yuji. I'd say he's patting Yuji on the back as Yuji's crying his eyes out in Jackpot. But then we have the peak, the pinnacle, the good stuff. I feel it in my bones. Maki Zenin. Now, notably, I do think Maki's stronger than Yuta. I hear you typing already, Yuta fans. Please do. Don't worry, I'm gonna make it. Is that the next versus battle? No, it's not the next versus battle. I have Maki versus someone else as the next versus battle first. But Maki versus Yuta, look out for that. But I will cover Maki first, because I do think she has simultaneously maybe a higher potential cap, yet at the same time a lower potential cap due to certain things. So, Maki, the reason I say she's in a tier even above Yuji is one, because she just says like better speed feats and like more relativity to 15-finger Maguna, which is good. And also, she is already equal to Toji Zenin at age. It is loaded. Please. She's only 5'7". That's weird. She's only 5'7". She's the same height as Goku. That is so, I don't know. For some reason, maybe it's just me, but I've always associated, I always thought Maki was like 6 foot. I don't know why. But she's 16. She's already reached Toji level at 16. Toji was like a full-grown, like 30-year-old man. like bro was living for a minute. Remember, at the time that Gojo was like 6 or 5, like barely a kindergartner, Toji was already a full-grown adult. Then put another decade on top of that. And that's how old Toji was. And then, Toji perished. So Toji, in the prime of his life, is already being rivaled by Maki, who's likely 10 years away, if not more. Because, like, I believe, I'm not sure, let me double check. What is the prime of a human's life? What is the physical prime of a human's life? The simple answer, Dr. Freshman says, that our bodies peak in our 20s and 30s. More nuanced response, however, is shaped by how we deal with reduced vigor and energy as we age, as well as depression. But regardless, ignoring the depression, the 20s and 30s. I'd say usually I've heard the prime of most people being described as like late 20s, early 30s. That's when your body is like, it's reached everything. Sure, you may be lowering in terms of energy, but like if you take care of yourself in your 20s and 30s, that's like your physical prime. That's when you're at your strongest. But then you have like secret things like dad strength and grandpa strength and like old man strength. Like there's some things that you get later on in life. You get those later buffs. But 20s and 30s are usually around your prime. Toji was already in his prime, if not a little bit past it by the time he was fighting Gojo. But Maki's already equal to Toji at age 16. She's likely half Toji's age, if not even less than that, yet she's already his equal. So, give her actual time to train and experience this new body and freedom and liberation, and she may be able to reach up there in the top tier levels of physicality. And she does have a cursed tool and the right perception abilities to allow her to use the cursed tool to negate all durability, which is really, really good. But I'm not sure if it's Gojo level reaching. Maybe you could argue. I'd say Maki physically is most likely, well, there's one other character that could hypothetically physically reach as long as they go to the gym. But I think Maki could reach Gojo's level physically. I think she could do it if she like trains her heart and soul out for the next 10 years, because she's essentially starting from a new base in terms of her heavenly restricted body being perfected at this time. But with that being the case, I don't think it's going to reach Gojo level overall. If she had access to the inverted spear of heaven, I think give her 10 years and she may be able to reach Gojo level. I generally think so, because 10 years of intense training on top of her already like relative to 15-finger base movement speed and combat speed, that's really, really good for a 16-year-old. But even with that, I think Gojo's hacks, his diversity as a sorcerer, his viability, his mobility, all of that keeps him in an echelon that Maki just can barely not reach. And especially with only Soul Split Katana, no Inverted Spear of Heaven, no any other fancy techniques. A lot of her stuff is purely physicals, and in a world so heavily hack space, I'm not sure how far those physicals can carry her, so I'm gonna leave Maki out of that. But there's one man left. One man who wields a blade very similar to this one right here. The one man we need to discuss. And that man's name is Yuta Okkotsu. So, Yuta Okkotsu. He is the one student that I believe has a 50% chance of reaching Gojo level. And here's why. Number one, Yuta Okkotsu is already a classified and registered special grade at the age of 17. He is also a solid 10 years out from his prime of life, physically. Number two, he already has Gojo beat in one stat. And that stat is cursed energy amount. The raw cursed energy supply of base Yuta, by the way, is much more. Well, not much more, but it is more than Gojo Sensei, as he admits himself, and no one contradicts him on that. So, Yuta has more energy than Gojo already, once again, at age 17. And then, in terms of physicals, I can't really give Yuta that. His output, fortunately, isn't that much. Neither is the speed. He's not the second fastest sorcerer. He's not stated to be, unfortunately. And while he's second stated to Sato to Gojo and unusual abilities, that's simply the number of abilities he has right now. But speaking of abilities, that's where I think Yuta could hypothetically pull out a way to surpass the strongest. Now, it all comes down to a question. Do you think that Yuta could copy the Six Eyes? Do you? I think it's hard to say. Because notably, according to Kinjaku, only one Six Eyes can exist at the time. But Yuta can copy Jujutsu techniques. And let me just make sure, let me be absolutely correct before I do something diabolical. I believe the Six Eyes is still classified as a technique. It's an inherited technique. The Six Eyes, Rikugan, are in... the wiki jumped. The Six Eyes, Rikugan, are an innate gift rarely inherited within the Zeno clan. The Zeno clan? Where did the Zeno clan come from? I can read, I promise. And rarely inherited within the Gojo clan. They are a non-standard Jujutsu trait, manifesting as a pair of bright blue eyes that grant the bearer extraordinary perception. This includes the ability to see the flow of cursed energy in extreme detail and use that to read cursed techniques. The eyes also allow for ultra-precise control over the user's cursed energy, which is indispensable for properly utilizing the Limitless technique. Satoru Gojo is the first sorcerer to be born with the Limitless and the Six Eyes in the last few hundred years. So, technically, it is an innate gift. I don't know, the wiki doesn't describe it as a curse technique. They're always bound on a fate. Yeah, there's no, well, at least on the wiki. Okay, here's the thing. The wiki does mention it, somewhat. The Six Eyes are an idiosyncrasy rarely inherited within the Gojo clan. They are not a curse technique that needs to be activated, but an innate gift that grants the bearer the ability to master the Limitless. Remember, all curse techniques are carved... This is the right card, and it's right about here on the right prefrontal cortex. So the Six Eyes, despite being an externally showing technique, every curse technique is inherently born into somebody. That's why Gojo says 80% of your ability is determined by your birth. A lot of your power is determined by that alone. So if it's possible that Yuta could copy them, even if they aren't as efficient or as good as the Six Eyes, if he could copy the Six Eyes, and he could copy the Limitless, then Yuta is the one character who I think could actually surpass Gojo. Because then he could just become Gojo. And he could just become Gojo plus more. He could become Gojo with technique negation. He could become Gojo with insane physical punches with Star Rage. He could become Gojo with the ability to negate durability if he can copy the curse techniques of weapons and stuff like that. He could literally just become Gojo with any other ability that Yuta has ever seen. He could become Gojo with Idle Transfiguration. Yuta has the potential to surpass Gojo because he can literally take what Gojo is and amplify it with other things, while already having more curse energy. If he could get the same efficiency as Gojo, Yuta could maybe just be him. And notably, remember, Yuta is actually on the weak side. He says this even after his year of training in Africa. They never actually went out of their way to make Yuta's base physically more jacked and juicy. He's still the same kind of scrawny 16-year-old, now 17-year-old that he was in JJK0. Thusly, unlike someone like Hakari, who, while already has the infinite cursed energy ability, he's already jacked, Yuta isn't jacked yet. If Yuta gets in the gym and actually builds up an Akari-esque build, he could likely give himself a massive amp in terms of speed and punching power. And top that off with all the cursed techniques he could have, and plus the ability to hypothetically steal the Limitless and the Six Eyes, Yuta is the one character who has the potential to go beyond even Gojo, simply because of how copy works. However, that's if and only if he can find a way to bypass that 5-minute time. But even then, no. I'd say even with just 5 minutes, if Yuta can know how to build a body that can support his amount of cursed energy and reinforce it to the point where he could be relative to Gojo in physicals, just get a Gojo type build, and then give him the Limitless and the Six Eyes, and then every other technique Yuta has ever seen, and he is beyond Gojo. He is on par. He is the one sorcerer within Jujutsu High that I believe has the potential to surpass the strongest sorcerer. However, that's what I think. Please what you guys think in the comment section down below. Personally, I think no one except for Yuta could actually reach and surpass Gojo's level. What do you guys think? Please let me know all that and more in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure the little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me as one, count them $1 a month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a very big thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays and Red Bull 4765. I'd like to give another very big thank you to our $5 patrons, Alex Ice Rose, Art Goon, DemXLND, Midnight Gemlord, Red Bull 4765, and Sean. I'd like to give another very big thank you to our $10 patrons, I Demokami, Joaquin, and Robbie Uchiha. I'd like to give another gargantuan thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose.